We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
2023 is winding down and 2024 is about to begin. And with that comes the presidential election in November. What's happening with the numbers? Who's winning? Who's on top? Who's on the bottom? And how's it all going to go? We're very lucky to be joined once again by Liberty Nation's senior political analyst and longtime host of this here radio show, Mr. Tim Donner. Welcome back, Tim.
Thank you, Mark. Good to be here.
So, Tim, I just have to ask, what's happening with the numbers? I know you and I, we religiously check Real Clear Politics for any of the latest polling.
We do. We do.
It's a coffee ritual. But what are you seeing now? What's happening with, let's start with the presidential numbers.
Well, I think the headline is that this is the third time Donald Trump has run for president, and he is in the best position he has ever been in to recapture the White House. Now, of course, there's a huge caveat that if he gets convicted of any of these 91 charges and or even gets imprisoned, of course, that all blows up. But as of now, with people knowing that he has been indicted on 91 counts, he is 2.5 points ahead in the Real Clear Politics average of polls. And I think more notable is the fact that of the last 12 polls, Trump has won 10, Biden has won 1 by 1 point, and there's been one tie. So you can see where the tide is headed. And I think the problem for Joe Biden is he can say, and his apologists can say, look, the polls a year out mean absolutely nothing. That's not true. In 2011, a full year before the Obama-Romney race, Obama was up by 3.5 points. Okay, in 2019, a year before the 2020 election, Biden was up by 8 or 9 points. So polls a year out do matter. And the biggest problem is that he can't really solve what's ailing him. He can't solve his age. He can't solve his cognitive condition. He can't solve Ukraine. He can't solve Israel. He can't solve 8% mortgage rates. He can't solve crime rampant in our great cities, and he cannot or will not solve an open border. With all of that going to get against him, it almost seems inconceivable that he could be reelected.
Although the polls, as you rightly point out, the polls suggest a trend that is moving towards Donald Trump at a rate that, as a confirmed poll watcher, this is quite the rate. I mean, you don't see 10 out of 12 polls going to one candidate.
In 2016, of course, famously, Trump was ahead in almost 0 polls. I think he led by 1 or 2 points in 2 or 3 polls in the entire year before the election. In 2020, Trump never led. He had, again, 1 or 2 polls where he was winning by 1 or 2 points, but he essentially has never led in the polls in the first 2 times he ran for president. Now he's led in the last 10 polls, and he's ahead by 2.5 points. And I'm sure the left doesn't want to hear it, but my goodness, Donald Trump is better positioned to win the presidency than he was in 2016 or 2020.
You're absolutely right, Tim. And the more recent polling that's dug into the swing states, it's like out of 6 swing states, Donald Trump is leading significantly in 5.
It's true. He's the swing state polls are not any more favorable for Biden. In fact, they're less favorable. But I'm still focusing on the wrong thing here, Mark, because I'm focusing on the head-to-head Trump versus Biden. In fact, it's not a head-to-head race.
Sure.
It's going to be at least a 5-way and very possibly a 6-way race when you add in Cornel West and Jill Stein and, of course, Joe Manchin.
Joe Manchin, yeah.
Might run, probably will. And biggest of all, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's polling near double digits. When you factor in either 3 or 4 of those into the mix and make it a 5 or 6-way race, Trump's lead jumps to 6 points.
6 points, yeah.
6 points in the actual race that's being run now, although Manchin is a prospective candidate, but he's going to an awful lot of trouble for a guy who will turn around in the end and say, maybe not.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That he's on a fact-finding mission, a mission to find his soul. As
he's trying to recapture his soul.
Yeah.
So then he can capture the soul of America, which Joe Biden, you know, he can finish the job started by Joe Biden of restoring the soul of the nation.
So that's the situation for them. Yeah, I believe what you're referring to with the 6 point leader, that's if the election were held today.
Yeah.
And I don't see things getting better over a period of time. Ukraine is not anywhere near ending, despite this dreadful war of attrition that is going to leave the country without a generation of young men. But it's no nearer to ending because people are not looking for a peaceful solution, from what I can tell. That's not going to get any better. Israel, maybe that'll be finished if Israel ends up wiping out every last member of Hamas. But then again, who knows? It'll just be somebody else doing it next time.
You know what? I think it's ironic. I think it's really ironic that the one thing that Biden has done that appears to be clearly right and positive, which is to stand in support of Israel in a mostly unwavering way, is the same thing that may cost him the election, because his left flank is not going to just give in and say, okay, we'll vote for him, even though he's siding with Israel against the Palestinians. I think you'll see how radical they are. They're not going to forgive him.
It's such an animating issue for many on the fringe left. That
it is. And he has to have their votes. And look at the demographics of this. He's losing the young vote. He's down by like 25, 30% among young voters. Black voters are supporting Trump to the tune of over 20%. Latinos are about split even, which, of course, Biden would have to dominate that group and Black voters and young voters. And he's barely holding his own. He's going to have to go out and spend his time shoring up his support among his base. And when you have to do that and you cannot expand past that, that's when you're going to lose, because you have to win swing states. When you have to lock down a state like, let's say, Colorado, or you have to lock down a state like Connecticut, and you have to spend your time on that, that's a sure sign you're going to lose. And I'll tell you this, I've followed politics through, I believe it is 16 presidential cycles. I've never seen a candidate come back from a 6-point deficit 1 year before the election. Never seen it. Now, that again doesn't mean it can't happen. But, I mean, Donald Trump got elected. Nobody thought that was possible. But I've never seen a candidate overcome a 6-point deficit. And if it was someone like Barack Obama, you'd see a lot of upside in terms of his ability to campaign and present his yes, we can. Okay. But Biden has no capacity to do that. And pulling in Hillary Clinton as his chief surrogate just like throws gasoline on a raging fire.
If Hillary Clinton's the answer, what the hell was the question? Tim Donner, thank you ever so much for being here.
All right. Thank you, Mark. This was just too much fun.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Don't get caught up in the media madness. Join our movement for free thinking and free speech at libertynation.com. Publishing news and analysis 24/7 with original articles by our team of authors who tell it like it is. Join us each week for online TV shows, The Uprising Podcast, and Liberty Nation Radio. we believe in free thinking and free speech. We are LibertyNation.com.